Ambassador Zixthala had overseen 47 first contact protocols across 3 galactic sectors. Each species brought their own quirks: the hegemony's obsession with geometric perfection, the Void Walker's tendency to phase through solid matter mid-conversation, the crystalline collective's habit of singing their responses in harmonics that shattered glassware. But nothing in her extensive diplomatic experience had prepared her for humanity. The initial meeting had proceeded flawlessly. The human delegation, led by Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Endeavor, had been refreshingly straightforward. No ritualistic dancing, no telepathic probing, no demands for tribute in rare minerals. They simply sat down, offered something called coffee, which turned out to be a mildly addictive stimulant, and began discussing trade routes and cultural exchange. Zixthala found herself genuinely impressed by their adaptability. When her assistant accidentally knocked over a data pad with his secondary arm, Captain Chen didn't even blink. Remarkable considering most species found the Veltarai's four-armed physiology disturbing. When the environmental controls malfunctioned and the room temperature dropped 15 degrees, the humans simply adjusted their clothing and continued the negotiations. "Your species shows remarkable flexibility," Zixthala had noted, her translator rendering her clicks and whistles into smooth, standard galactic. Captain Chen smiled, another endearing human trait, this facial expression that somehow conveyed warmth without showing aggression. "We've learned to adapt. It's kind of our thing." The talks had been progressing beautifully for 3 days. They'd established preliminary trade agreements, scheduled cultural exchange programs, and even discussed joint exploration missions. Zixthala was already composing her report to the Galactic Council, recommending humanity for fast-track integration into the greater galactic community. Then Ensign Korth made his mistake. The young Veltarai had been assigned as a general assistant, handling minor logistics and documentation. He was eager, perhaps too eager, to prove himself worthy of the diplomatic corps. When Captain Chen excused herself briefly to check on her ship, Korth had noticed the small quadrupedal creature she'd left behind. "What is this biological entity?" he'd asked in heavily accented standard, pointing at the golden-furred animal that lay curled up near Chen's chair. "That's Max," replied Dr. Martinez, the mission's xenobiologist. "He's Captain Chen's dog." Companion animal." Korth's compound eyes had widened with interest. In Veltarai culture, any creature brought to formal negotiations carried deep symbolic meaning. This dog must represent something significant about human society, perhaps a totem animal, or a religious symbol, or even a form of advanced technology, disguised as a biological entity. Determined to show proper respect for what he assumed was an important cultural artifact, Korth had approached the sleeping dog with the formal reverence reserved for sacred objects. He'd extended his primary manipulation arm, intending to offer the traditional Veltarai blessing of peaceful contact. Max, awakened by the unfamiliar scent and movement, had reacted exactly as a startled dog would. He yelped, scrambled to his feet, and tried to back away from the strange, multi-armed alien reaching toward him. Korth, interpreting this as part of some ritual response, had reached out more insistently. "I seek to honor your significance," he'd declared formally. Max's warning growl went unheeded. When Korth's secondary arm brushed against the dog's hindquarters, Max snapped, not viciously, but with the quick defensive bite of a frightened animal. The sound that erupted from Captain Chen as she returned to find a four-armed alien grabbing her dog was unlike anything in Zixathala's extensive xenological database. It was a roar of pure primal fury that seemed to bypass higher brain functions and speak directly to some ancient combat protocol buried deep in human DNA. "Get your hands off my dog!" The temperature in the room seemed to drop another 20 degrees, but this time it had nothing to do with the environmental controls. Chen moved with a fluid grace that transformed her from a pleasant diplomat into something that reminded Zixathala uncomfortably of an apex predator. Her eyes, those strange forward-facing eyes that marked humans as hunters, fixed on Korth with an intensity that made the young assistant's natural camouflage reflexively activate. "I was only attempting to," Korth began, but Chen cut him off. "You touched my dog without permission." Her voice was quiet now, which somehow made it more terrifying than her earlier roar. "In human culture, that's considered an act of aggression." Dr. Martinez had quickly scooped up Max, checking him for injury while murmuring soothing words. The dog appeared unharmed, but shaken, pressing close to the familiar human scent. Zixthala watched in fascination as the other humans in the room underwent a visible transformation. Their relaxed postures shifted subtly, shoulders squaring, hands moving closer to the ceremonial sidearms they wore. It was as if an invisible signal had passed between them, activating some sort of pack defense protocol. "Captain Chen," Zixthala interjected carefully, "I believe this was a cultural misunderstanding. Ensign Korth intended no harm." Chen's gaze didn't waver from the Veltari. "Intent doesn't matter when someone hurts a member of my family." Family. Zixthala's translator struggled with the concept. According to the linguistic database, this dog was not genetically related to any of the humans present, yet Chen had used the kinship designation with absolute conviction. "Your family?" Zixthala asked. Chen's expression softened slightly as she looked at Max, now safely in Dr. Martinez's arms. "Dogs have been humanity's companions for over 15,000 years. They've stood guard while we slept, helped us hunt when we were hungry, and died protecting us from enemies. They ask for nothing but food, shelter, and affection, and they give us absolute loyalty in return." She turned back to Korth, and the diplomatic mask slipped back into place, but the steel underneath was still visible. "Max has been with me for 8 years. He saved my life twice, once from a plasma leak, once from an assassin who thought they could catch me sleeping. He's not just a pet. He's not just a companion. He's family, and humans protect their family." Zixthala felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature as she began to understand the implications. Humans didn't just form bonds with their own species. They extended the concept of family to include other creatures entirely, and they defended those bonds with the same ferocity they'd show protecting their offspring. She thought of the 47, species she'd helped integrate into galactic society. Not one of them had ever displayed this level of protective instinct toward a non-sapient creature. The tactical advantages were staggering. A species that could form unbreakable bonds with alien life forms, that could extend their pack loyalty beyond the boundaries of their own biology. No wonder they'd adapted so well to space travel. Humans didn't just explore the galaxy, they made it their home, and they brought their family with them. "Ensign Korth," she said formally, "please offer your most sincere apologies to Captain Chen and her companion." Korth, still partially camouflaged and clearly shaken, managed a trembling bow. I deeply regret my cultural insensitivity. I meant no disrespect to your family member. Chen studied him for a long moment, then nodded curtly. Apology accepted. But next time, ask before you touch someone else's dog. As the negotiations resumed, Zixthala found herself revising her report to the Galactic Council. Humanity wasn't just ready for integration into galactic society. They were going to revolutionize it. A species that could form unbreakable bonds with any creature willing to accept their loyalty would find allies in the most unexpected places. She just hoped the galaxy was ready for them. Max, meanwhile, had curled up at Chen's feet and gone back to sleep, blissfully unaware that he'd just altered the course of interstellar diplomacy.